And we are live.
Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. And this is free-minded Luke Rudowski and statist Jason Burmis for We Are Change here for our weekly wrap-up. And today is October 21st, 2018, 7 p.m. Eastern, where we're going to talk about all the important news that happened this week. We're going to fill you in, give you a full download, a full wrap-up of all the information that is usually propagated to you and served to you with a bunch of lies and disinformation, which of course we're going to try to go through in this broadcast. And we're going to be live on Facebook, on Periscope. The podcast of this episode will be available on iTunes later. But of course, we're going to be talking to everyone on YouTube, youtube.com/WeAreChange, where we're going to be interacting with you one-on-one, engaging in a bigger conversation. And Jason, we should already have the phone call set up. Do we have phone calls set up?
We do not have phone calls set up. There have been so many audio issues, and even right before this.
I am so excited about the possibility of the banana. I'm already looking at the comment section. People are like, "You're 35 seconds late. How dare you?" I'm so excited about the possibility.
35 seconds late. That's 7 p.m. What are we talking about here?
Well, technically they were counting. There's people in the chat room right now counting down seconds of how late we are past 7 p.m. And knowing the audience we have and the conversations that do erupt in our chat room, I am very, very excited to the intellectual discourse that will be exchanged, especially through the power of vocal communication that we could have with them through the phone. That I think would be awesome.
I guess. You know what? I loved doing talk radio back in the day. One of my favorite things was actually interacting with the audience, and in that aspect, I think it's going to be good. I think there are some technical issues. I mean, just the fact that, first of all, running this, audio issues, live streaming on YouTube with that audience without anybody being able to do like a pre-interview. I know people hate that, or even open phones just to get your name. You know what I mean? Those types of things are pretty important, but I've seen some other guys do it. The problem with that is, and I think I'm praying we're going to be different, is when I see it on other channels, you know what it is? It's like, yo, bro, and then all of a sudden it's a flame match. All of a sudden it's on, and we've never really done that. And I don't think we should.
Flame match? What does a flame match mean?
Oh, well, I mean, it's just like, yo, bro, you said this about me. Well, bro, I saw this on a forum, bro. Maybe I'm broing out.
I love it. I want the chaos. I want the madness.
All right, well, I guess we're going to get it. But, I've always tried to be civil with people, have actual conversations. I don't sit here and S-talk individuals. Luke, you don't do that either. When we are talking about individuals, they usually either run large media organizations, or they're politicians, or they're investors. They're somehow politically active. So I'm excited to engage the audience. I've seen what these chat rooms are at times. Let's see how it goes. Listen, we'll have it next week. We'll do it for sure.
Elizabeth Warren's cookbook recipe to be presented to them. I love the chat rooms. I love everybody. Other than that, man, this week has been a little bit less crazy for me personally. Been here in Galveston, Texas, hanging out with my good friends Joby and Stephanie Weeks, who are about to deliver an alien out of their stomachs. They're about to have a baby, which Dr. Ron Paul is coming out of retirement to deliver. So I'm here hanging out with them. They've been stuck here for a while. They are way past the due date. We've been doing a lot of different stuff here, working on a lot of health, exercising, and it's been a good break for me the last few days, being around good entrepreneurial people, and that's pretty much been my week this week. How was your week?
Honestly, a lot more hectic than that, brother. Like, I take care of two small children. One was sick all last week. The other one started getting sick this week.
That sounds fun.
Oh, dude, it's.
Was there puking?
No, you know what? Well, yes, the one did puke all last week, but I wasn't there for it the whole time. She didn't eat. She lost 10 pounds over the week. That's always scary.
Ooh, that's bad.
Yeah, my sister took her to the emergency. Everything's okay, by the way, guys. But, she just got a stomach flu, I guess, like 30 kids. And we go to small schools. We're in upstate New York. We're out of school. So, I had my first, I guess, big kind of like it's not my kids, by the way, guys. It's my sister's kids that I take care of. But, that first semi-parenting scare. So that, and then I had them today. So it's been kind of a long week. But, one of the stories I know we're going to get to that's been so buried that's in in this Saudi Arabian Yemen story is that Merck story that just kind of went under the radar. We're going to get to it later, but I think that's really huge. This could have been a bigger week for news, but obviously we're going to be focusing on Jamal Khashoggi because everybody has been focusing on Jamal Khashoggi, and there's been a lot of other things going on, Luke.
Yeah, there's so many other things that are being swept underneath the rug, not only historically speaking, but there definitely needs to be a more kind of closer look into what's developing and what's happening here. Also, I want to thank our new member, Kathy Roper, for joining us and becoming a subscriber to our channel. Really appreciate all the support and all the super chats. Of course, we answer all super chats because they keep us free and independent. And Jason, let's just jump into it because as we all know, the big tech monopolies, they're pretty much controlled by a lot of the interests that pay them and have influence over them. A lot of times these include many different governments, including the Israeli, the US, and of course also the Saudi government that has thrown billions of dollars into the tech industry. And you know, if you talk about Israel, Saudi Arabia, the US petrodollar, you're pretty much put on the shite list by all these big tech monopolies. So we're going to do what we're best at and get on that shite list even more, since this is an issue that we cared about and talked about for a long time, because it is critically important to bring up and something that has been squashed many times before. But this needs to be brought up because with the Khashoggi case, there is an unprecedented number of reporting. But it's not just Khashoggi who was affected and killed in the Saudi consulate in Turkey. There's countless numbers of activists, of politicians, of journalists that were tortured and killed by the Saudi empire, but yet no one made a big stink about that particular case. There's Sharina Shem. She was an incredible journalist inside of Turkey reporting on direct Western and NATO influence and arming of ISIS inside of Syria. She was mysteriously killed inside of that country, and then yet there wasn't such a big stink over this American who was killed overseas. There's the countless numbers of atrocities that happen in Yemen, in Syria, but yet the media has been blanketly ignoring those things, which you have to ask yourself, you know, what's really kind of going on here? And I do believe it is in large a part of a bigger transition, but this whole story, the Khashoggi story, is getting just utterly insane and showing the true colors of the establishment that are trying to keep this evil dictatorship alliance alive and well. Like we saw Donald Trump. He was talking about how it was rogue killers that murdered Khashoggi, ushering the conspiracy theories that the Saudi empire was regurgitating on everyone when they were being accused, because all the evidence showed that they did kill Khashoggi. The Saudi empire said that, yeah, he left the Saudi consulate, even though there's no video proof of it, that it was maybe some rogue agents that did this, that this was a grand conspiracy against them, that maybe his wife did it. Maybe his wife was connected to radical Islamic terrorists. This is all official reports coming from Saudi newspapers, which are controlled by the Saudi empire, and the Saudi empire themselves, ultimately saying, if you question or even think or look at any of the evidence suggesting that the Saudi empire killed Khashoggi, well, you're a conspiracy theorist. This is the official things. And Donald Trump even ushered those same words, saying, well, maybe it was rogue killers. And now, as of just a few moments ago, it came out that Saudi Arabia said, yeah, Khashoggi died in our consulate after a supposed fight, saying that Khashoggi went in there and started a fight with dozens of the Saudi Arabians that were there, who postponed his meeting for him to be there at that specific time, flew in and somehow became deranged and decided to start fighting them. And then luckily, some of the Saudi guys had bone-cutting saws, and he accidentally died, which Donald Trump actually came out and said, you know, that explanation, you know, that's credible. Donald Trump said it's credible. The kitten bringing the rat to you. The kitten pretty much was saying, well, he died accidentally while I was questioning him. That is what Donald Trump finds credible. It's just utterly insane to have this on the world stage, and it shows you how much disdain they have for the general public, with how much willing they're able to lie to you and have no respect for you at all. There's even a new report coming out from the Turks that are saying that the Saudi crown prince actually spoke to Khashoggi by phone right before he was killed. This is a new report coming out, of course, from the Turks, but we have to look at things very carefully here, because the Turks, they don't really have an interest in protecting human rights or journalists, since in Turkey, more journalists are killed and imprisoned more than any other country in the entire world. So Turkey, of course, has a big agenda here to go against Saudi Arabia, which also does need to be noted here and is an important aspect of it. But Donald Trump actually came out and said, also just a few moments ago, well, yeah, there was some deception, but the Saudi crown prince is pretty strong. And Donald Trump said, yeah, they lied. Well, of course they did. They came out with multiple different versions of the story about how Khashoggi died that made absolutely no sense at all. But Donald Trump, who previously claimed he had no financial interest in Saudi Arabia, even though we played a video with you of him last week saying, bing, 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 they're buying all my apartments. We have to understand here, the relationship here gets a lot bigger when you look at people like Jared Kushner, who, of course, pushed for this current prince to be in power over the incumbent one that was supposed to get in power, that was being backed also by the State Department and the CIA. And many people point to the collusion of Netanyahu, Jared Kushner, and Donald Trump helping this new prince come to power, since they are more unfavorable working towards their greater geopolitical goals of going against Iran and, of course, protecting the U.S. petrodollar and, of course, protecting also Israel's interests. And you have to understand here, Jared Kushner fueled this Trump-Saudi love triangle with Israel that we're seeing, and it's unfolding in front of our very eyes. This axis, this alliance, is not supposed to be spoken about, but we have seen Israel strictly criticize, especially a lot of prominent voices in Israel, criticize Khashoggi. Now, there was a very interesting move made by Germany, because Germany, just moments ago, suspended their arms sales to Saudi Arabia, which was worth $500 million to them. And this is a very bold move by Germany, and I think the correct one here, because if you look at Donald Trump's defense, when he's saying, well, yeah, their story's credible, yeah, they lied a little bit, but the Saudi crown prince is strong, yeah, but we need to sell him weapons. Look at the argument that we're making here. Is America so desperate for a little bit of money, which, by the way, they print on their own, they print money. The U.S. Federal Reserve System, the whole economic system, is pretty much just them printing as much money as they want with the quasi-private Federal Reserve banking system that we're under. But is America so desperate for money that we have to get it from murderers and torturers and equip them with the weaponry to commit more human atrocities? Think about it on a personal level, especially you, Jason. Jason, you as a person, if you had a butcher shop and you know there was a crazy guy down the street just cutting people's heads off for being gay or having a political opinion, and there was other butcher shops around, would you still morally say, yes, I should sell him more swords to cut off people's heads? Would you do that morally, just for money?
Afraid not, Luke. Afraid not. But at the same time, I'm not the American hegemony or their globalist cronies that are highly invested in bombing children. Proceed.
Yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous that this has to be said, because if you look at the conscience of America, why do we want that on our conscience? If you look at the atrocities that Saudi Arabia is committing with these weapons, they are far more sinister than just what we're hearing about Khashoggi. Far more lethal and detrimental to human civilization. And it's interesting to see a lot of prominent Israeli voices, but also a lot of the discourse happening on social media, which we're finding out through this story is being controlled and narrated with Saudi Arabia. As it just came out that Saudi Arabia was releasing a bot troll army on Khashoggi before he even died. And there's a very interesting quote in this Boston Globe article that talks about how Khashoggi's friends were calling him frequently to check in on his mental state because of the onslaught of hate he was getting predominantly from Twitter trolls that were being sponsored and paid for and artificially there by the Saudi empire. The Saudi empire and Saudi interests were buying trolls to attack Khashoggi before he died. But it's not only that instant that they were active. They're also active now, as it just came out, that Twitter just suspended bots that were spreading pro-Saudi tweets after Khashoggi died during this entire situation that was unfolding. And the article says here Twitter has just suspended these accounts that are bots, that are fake, that are being bought for with Saudi oil money to change the narrative here and make Saudi Arabia look like the good guy. And it doesn't just end with them manipulating the social media algorithms with their bots, which Twitter suspended, but also it just came out that Saudi Arabia was grooming a Twitter employee to spy on users' accounts who were unfriendly to the Saudi empire. This happened all the way back in 2000 and let me get this correct here, 2015, where we found out that there was an investigation that found out that there was a Twitter user who was on Saudi Arabia's payroll who was handing over private information about users who were critical to Saudi Arabia to the Saudi government. This man was actually fired in 2015. This story happened a few years ago, but shows you just the exact amount of influence that they had. And it's interesting that the story is also coming out right now during this specific onslaught where now the mainstream media, the NPCs in the mainstream media, are now seeing Saudi Arabia as a legitimate target. But it doesn't just end with bots that they buy. It doesn't just end with them grooming spies inside of these tech monopoly companies. We also have to understand that all the major tech monopolies are financed to the tune of billions of dollars of investment from Saudi Arabia. As we're looking at an article here from The Verge, tech reckons with Saudi Arabian cash after this journalist's brutal murder. And it talks about how the ideas and the mantras of all these big tech monopolies, whether it's Google, don't be evil, whether it's the Apple CEO talking about free speech, all of that makes completely no sense when you look at the vast amount of money going into these big social tech monopolies. And it makes sense with all the censorship that has been happening and the fact that the bots of Saudi Arabia are suspended. But when it comes to a thing like NPCs, those are just outright banned automatically. The NPC story can't be underplayed here. And if you don't know what it is, there's a new popular meme out there that explains how some people who don't critically think, follow predictive algorithms, have predictive behaviors, are pretty much NPCs, non-player characters like we see in video games that are controlled by artificial intelligence, the influence of someone else telling them and acting them how they act. Now, this was not a right-wing thing or a left-wing thing. This was predominantly to make fun of people who don't critically think. It also merges into the bigger theory that we're living in a simulation, that some people have this inner voice and some people don't have this inner voice. And this new meme now is pretty much attacking anyone who just regurgitates the same talking points that they hear and don't do any critical thinking, which now the BBC, The Guardian, and other leftist newspapers have called a racist, right-wing troll propaganda effort by the right-wingers. As we're seeing, BBC trending, Twitter banned 1,500 accounts, didn't suspend them, banned 1,500 accounts from using their platforms because they identified as NPCs or were memeing about NPCs. This is what Twitter sees as a major problem, goes after it, and they're calling it a right-wing racist propaganda effort, when in reality, as the Spider-Man meme that I'm about to show shows you, that it's used against anyone who doesn't critically think, whether it's people on the right just regurgitating the same lines or people on the left. It's about people who don't critically think, but because the left is so bad at humor, so bad at memes, they were, I guess, thinking that they were losing the meme war, and now has decided to label it a right-wing thing when it wasn't, and are now banning these accounts from even existing. So we have to understand here, with the vast amount of influence that we're seeing these big social tech monopolies, especially with all the censorships that we've been happening. These are not just private companies. These are companies well endowed with the establishment, with many voices who are trying to censor and suppress free speech. And I think one of the biggest ones is, of course, people who go after and criticize Saudi Arabia, just like we have been doing from the very existence of our channel, because it is a legitimate, serious issue that does need to be dealt with, that no one other than just now wants to even talk about and address. So it's fascinating to see this unfold. Me and Jason personally believe that Khashoggi was probably some kind of asset to an intelligence agency, and this is why there's such a big hubbub around the Khashoggi case. Whether it will go somewhere, most likely not, but I think overall it's a good thing that people are now finally waking up and seeing the bigger picture for who Saudi Arabia is. No matter the arms contracts and the petrodollar, this needs to be more in our reality than ever, and we need to have more warnings about the influence that they have on social media, since predominantly the people who are critical of them are being hit the most. And we've been hit here, but other people here who directly go against the empire have been completely eviscerated from their platform, as we talked about here. Even in the last video I did, I showed pictures of this current Saudi crown prince, specifically with Jeff Bezos, with Mark Zuckerberg, with Jack Dorsey, with the CEO of Apple, all of them laughing, being friendly, with billions of dollars going in there. This is something that needs our attention, that the mainstream media is not talking about. It's finally coming out, their use of bots, and this is one of the main reasons why it's important to always be not an NPC, and to always have an open mind, even on chat rooms, because it's critically important to understand here that yes, governments do use bots and do have a huge control of the influence, especially on all the narratives that we're seeing, and that's why it's important to question everything. That's my take on it. Jason, do you want to add anything?
Well, let's just talk about the Khashoggi thing, because there's so many different versions of it at this point, right? First version, for instance, right, is that he gets in there and he's killed inside the consulate. Now, they said he was getting papers to divorce his wife so he could marry a new wife. People don't understand that Khashoggi had deep intelligence ties through the late 70s and early 80s with the Muslim Brotherhood, Osama bin Laden himself, and there's varying reports of whether or not Adnan Khashoggi was his uncle, his cousin. I've even seen reports of his father. I don't believe his father is correct. But if you do not know who Adnan Khashoggi is a very, very important person in the fact that he is the arms dealer in Iran-Contra. He is the guy, Luke, that literally moved the weapons from Israel, from the dirty cocaine money in South America. We were moving the cocaine in. Okay, they had to get the arms from somewhere. They got it from there. Now, he also worked with Lockheed Martin. There's a very odd tie that Richard Andrew Grove put me onto. I tweeted out last week where Khashoggi had this yacht, Adnan Khashoggi, and he sold it to Trump, and there was a deal with Lockheed Martin. So there's very shady stuff going on. And what I particularly don't like about the situation, Luke, like you were talking about, we're treated like children when it comes to these issues. We only get told what we're supposed to. We get patted on the head. We never get the truth. Now, was he CIA? Was he deep intelligence? Was he an asset? I can't tell you for sure. He absolutely openly worked with our military intelligence at many, many points in history. Remember, this is when bin Laden's the good guy. But hey, Luke, right now, Al Qaeda is the good guy in Syria, where we have apparently, one of the big stories this week, again, no one seems to be covering, is that ISIS is back. They've got 700 hostages. They're executing people they're saying are spies. Putin says they're killing 10 of them a day. Saudi Arabia is a hotbed right now. It is a hotbed for so much information they don't want you to know about, and now we're making a big deal about this. It's so beyond bizarre But I mean, at the other end of the spectrum, you see how establishment Trump and his family are when you see Eric Trump on television defending it, when you see Don Trump Jr. defending the Saudis on Twitter. It really makes me sick. And it really makes me sick that people are so far on this Trump train and MAGA hat craze, Luke, that they don't understand the real repercussions, that we're still dealing with establishment, military, industrial complex leaders that are unaccountable.
Yeah. Don't be an NPC. Question everything. Don't just wear your MAGA hat and take out your brain. You look at Donald Trump. When he was campaigning, he was talking about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11, Saudi Arabia being the biggest sponsor of terrorism, Saudi Arabia and the horrible involvement that they were doing inside of Syria. And all of that just completely went away. And now Donald Trump is just regurgitating the conspiracy theories, which they actually are, by Saudi Arabia, saying, no, it was probably rogue agents. Saudi Arabia just admitted, yeah, he died at the consulate. Just again, putting egg in the face of anyone out there in the establishment to support such brutality. And this argument of we need to arm them is a weak argument. It's not a good argument. It's not a moral argument. It's an immoral argument just for money, which again is the bigger play here. And it just absolutely is ridiculous to see the true colors highlighted as they are now, which we should be careful of. But we should also push for more, since there's a lot more to the story that the general public is not getting. And that's why we do this videos, and that's why we go so much in depth and cover so much of the articles that we just covered right now in the short little time span that we were just on.
Well, absolutely, Luke. And once again, people have to understand, yes, Saudi Arabia is not good. Okay, first of all, it's a religious extremist nation. It's not secular. Okay, it has an extreme amount of power, and it seems to be part of our military alliance in the Middle East. It is interesting that Turkey's Erdogan says that he is going to expose exactly what happened to this guy. I mean, there's a story out there today, Luke, that they not only murdered him, but one of the intelligence agents, and I think they've arrested 6. There was talks of somebody possibly dying in a suspicious car crash. All these are on the outskirts. But now they're saying that there is video of one of his killers leaving in Khashoggi's clothes. So it would appear on the surveillance video that he left the consulate building. Pretty crazy stuff. Again, right now, it's such a media event, it's hard for me even to weigh in on it because the deception here is on multiple levels. We know Saudi Arabia is corrupt. But then again, we know that Khashoggi, although working with the Washington Post, I believe that's the one owned by Bezos at this point, isn't it? Old CIA Jeff Bezos? Yeah. Yeah, it's old CIA Jeff Bezos. He's got a $600 million contract to do their information servers and other military industrial complex contracts as well, police contracts. Bezos, really great guy. I'm sure he's not biased at all over at that Washington Post. I'm sure the previous owners weren't either, Luke. So my point is that we don't really know the whole story on this guy. We don't know what led to this guy. It appears he got set up. It appears he got murdered. And it appears there's a huge shiz storm, but at least it is making people aware. One of the things that you didn't talk about, Luke, is that in 2015, one of these Saudi princes was so heavily invested in Twitter, he owned more than Jack Dorsey. Now, here's the problem with that. The fact is, he was one in the purge, Luke, when, again, you have a corrupt organization just doing whatever they want, rounded up a bunch of these people, and this prince actually bought his way out.
And this is an important aspect of it. The Saudis also got a bunch of intelligence from Barack Obama, from the U.S. administration, to go after the dissidents in their country for their bigger purge that just happened. That, of course, we talked about, a few months ago.
Yeah, again, there's been so many. Remember, there was a firefight outside of the Saudi Arabian palace that never really got explained. It was at a time when the current prince was not seen for a month or two. And this is one of the guys, you're looking at him right now, that bought his way out. I think it was something crazy, $6 billion. So now we don't know whether the Saudis are invested in Twitter. Wouldn't that be interesting if they still were? If they liquidated that money?
Saudi Arabia is the biggest investor in U.S. tech startups, and they're investing at least $2 trillion into the markets away from, of course, oil towards technology and energy, and they hope to make that move completed by 2030. But they have already sucked in and put in a whole bunch of money into the big tech companies. And that's why when the Saudi prince visited the United States, he went around to all the major tech companies and was all laughing and cheering and celebrating with all of them, with all the photos that we just talked about in our latest video.
Oh, Luke. And then, I do want to weigh in a little bit on this whole NPC thing, non-playable character. First of all, I hate memes. I can't stand them. I think they are annoying.
You got to get with the times, Jason.
Yeah, I guess so, man. Listen, I'm 39. I'm 39 pushing 60, okay? I couldn't give a rat's ass about, listen, for me, the term doesn't even really make sense because it just started with video graphics and opinions, and now it just everything is a meme. Like I can watch a minute and a half video, and somebody will tell me that's a meme because they stuck Donald Trump's face on it. Oh, you see that meme? Listen, it's a broad term. Now, non-playable character, listen, AI is getting really good, and it plays into this multiverse. We live in a simulation, new school quantum physics thing. So when I saw this non-playable character thing, I turned into Tomorrow's News Today to see what they were saying about it. And
of course you did.
I couldn't help myself because I knew it was going to, because although they're not talking about it, the media is playing up as a right-wing thing, right? Personally, I just started seeing it in my timeline. I'm like, well, this is dumb. I'm gonna rat's ass about any of this. This is ridiculous. First of all, it's not artistic. It's not clever. It's jackassery at its finest. But boy, did the jackassery get hard over at Tomorrow's News Today.
Well, I disagree with you. I think memes are a great way to effectively communicate a message.
I think they are too.
And that's why we have seen such attack by the big social tech monopolies against memers. Something that is supposed to be, ridiculous and insignificant has a very huge influence on our political discourse, and it's a lot more effective to affect that with images and just some text talking about the hypocrisy of a lot of things. And this whole NPC thing, to me, is ultimately talking about how people are not thinking, how they're controlled by artificial intelligence, by their behaviors. They're just programmed and they're just repetitive. And to me, overall, it's a good message that is being brought out there for telling people to think independently and not just be an NPC, not to just be a robot controlled by something outside of your forces, which is a great representation to what I think a lot of things are happening in our society. If you look at people, they just regurgitate the same things. There's no creativity. There's no imagination. There's no open-mindedness. They only want to hear one thing and one thing only, and they don't want to expand their consciousness towards a better understanding by looking at the other side at all. So to me, the whole NPC meme is a great meme, and it's not a racist right-wing thing because I've seen left-wingers use it. I use it against both the left and the right because we're seeing them puppet the same fricking terms all the time, and it's becoming so repetitive. Feminism is cancer. Trump is a Nazi. Just stop it with your bull crap and think about something original. I'm sick of the boring reruns that people are just rerunning from the social programming and conditioning that they have been pushed on by whoever it may be.
Well, you know what? I don't disagree with anything you said right there. I just want to say that, I think everything you said there is correct. People should have original thoughts. And there are a lot of program people. And, I didn't love this meme that you had here with the statists be like, because you know what? I believe in government, but you're not going to see me in a ridiculous pink hat with labia hanging off it. And you're not going to see me in a red Make America Great Again hat either, Luke. So
yeah, just to explain it to the audience, Jason is a statist Susie, and
I hate how you know what? Let's stop right there. I hate how the media's doing that now.
As a free-thinking Freddy.
No.
I'm like a free-thinking Freddy. You're more like a statist Susie.
Every time I go to the headlines now, it's Corner Store Caroline or race baiting Rachel. Like, I can't do it. Like, the clickbait.
Hermit Patty.
Listen, the clickbait meme society we live in, dude, it's terrible. It's, you know what? It's awful. And I'm going to have an original thank you to all the members out there that do tune into something a little bit different. I saw Argyle out there. I think, what was it, Gentry was
Yeah,
in
Jason,
there.
Jason, if you can, look at the chat, see if any of our members chatted anything,
They
and I'll go
did,
over the
and it's
super
been
chats.
so long.
You go look at that, and I'll go look at the super chats right now and answer some of the super chats. We got one by DA saying, "Don't always agree, but still appreciate the work you guys do. Keep it up." Well, thank you so much, DA. Thank you for not being an NPC. Really appreciate it very much. We got another super chat by Nicholas Peter, who says, "Happy Sunday, gents. How does it feel being ballers?" Jason, how does it feel being a baller?
Go ask LeBron James, bro. I haven't picked up a basketball in almost, I don't know, 15 years. I wouldn't be good at it, and I'm certainly not bling blinging, yo.
No, we're definitely not bling blinging. We're more uh, broken Billies, broke Billies here. But I did play a lot of basketball this week. It was really fun to get back into it and get some exercise and actually work my physical body because I'm always sitting in front of the computer. Get out there, people. Seriously, go for a walk, do something. Your mind will feel so much better and so much freer just with physical activity, which is so important in our life. We got another super chat by Lord Pyrrhix, who says, "Say no to swords." Swords? Oh yeah, that he's referring to the analogy of you being the sword salesman and your crazy Saudi Arabian neighbor just cutting off everyone's head in the neighborhood. But you got to make money, right? That's Donald Trump's line right there. We got another super chat by Oversea who says, "Save reputable journalists." There's a few of them out there. There's not that many. A lot of them have special interests. It's very difficult for independent journalists to sustain themselves, mainly because of the algorithm changes, mainly because of the behind-the-scenes war by these big tech monopolies suppressing the message from getting out there. And a lot of people have become shills. Even people that me and Jason know who are in the industry who just become shills and NPCs regurgitating one line because it's beneficial to their profits. And that's something that we refuse to do. We got another super chat by Nicholas Peter. Thank you so much again, Nicholas Peter. He asks, "How much success have you had with the Change Media University?" Thank you so much, Nicholas. Really appreciate that. Change Media University is a program that we have up. It's actually on our website on wearechange.org. I think you can get there directly through wearechange.org/donate. And it's a journalistic program where we go from A to Z, how to do everything that we're doing, whether it's confronting politicians, covering riots, covering protests, doing interviews, doing videos. We went over everything and made it like an educational online institution, and it's been going really great. I'm still talking to a lot of people. They got a lot of insights. Every year in Acapulco, I do a boot camp where I train people. The boot camp involves a lot of different activities, but usually a lot of self-help, mental exercises, visualization, positive thinking, exercises that I do with a lot of students. And I have had a lot of different success. Dan Dix has joined me. Josh Sigerson has joined me. James Corbett has joined me to teach these boot camps down in Mexico. And it's been really incredible to share the knowledge, not only with them, but also with the people who purchase Change Media University, the people who I get to work with one-on-one at Acapulco during Anarchapulco, which, by the way, is happening in February this year. Has Ron Paul, has Alex Jones attending. It's going to be a really big major event. If you guys want to go to Anarchapulco, just type in Anarchapulco into Google, and you get, I think, 15% off if you use the promo code WeAreChange when booking your tickets.
It's WRC.
It's almost WRC. Yeah, WRC when you're booking your tickets, and you get 15% off. We get 10% as a commission because of that. But I think the event is almost sold out, obviously, because David Icke and Ron Paul and all these other anarchists and free thinkers are all going to be at the same place. So definitely check that one out. Two more super chats. We got Just O Blaze O, who says, "Read 2012 DARPA report on meme warfare. The establishment hates memes. Get with the schist." Jason, you hear that, Jason? I think I remember reading that 2012 DARPA report on meme warfare and the kind of military officials discussing how important and how powerful memes are.
Oh, the power of memes.
Seriously, it's the
Listen, you're
safest
not
thing,
wrong.
dude.
You're not wrong. And you know what? Somebody in here in the chat, Neil Gentry, he is one of our members. He mentioned, memes are tougher to censor, right? So yes, they are, but they are learning in the algorithm. And the EU with its new policy, who knows what kind of internet censorship we're going to see next. We've already seen deplatforming. We've seen
Yeah.
pages get taken down. It's not like they're foolproof. And I'm not digging on them because some of them are good, some of them are entertaining. Some of them do deserve our attention. But like Argyle said, another one of our great members, thank you so much, Argyle, I don't see the Constitution being restored. All these MAGA heads and these people that are like, we're doing it with memes. Bring back Pepe. I love me some Pepe. Like, these people need to realize our Constitution is still completely eviscerated. The military-industrial complex is in control, and the infrastructure here, Luke, is growing at a rapid rate. These things are concerning to me. These are the type of things that are very, very important. And I've got a bunch of people that think we defeated the New World Order, baby. We did it. We did it. Number one. Trump is number one. We defeated the New World Order. Globalism is over. All the infrastructure is only being built greater and greater. The military is getting more and more money. What 5G is going to bring, what quantum computing is going to bring, what AI and Boston Dynamics is going to bring to the world is unimaginable at this point. And guess what? No matter how much you love Mr. Orange, okay, he's not going to be there no matter what in 7 years. That's 6 years,
And
probably.
Jason, you forgot about the QAnon secret indictments. And I do have to say there is a little bit, just a little bit of a resemblance between you and Pepe.
How dare you? How dare you, my friend?
Just a little bit.
A little.
tiny
Me
bit.
and the frog. Like that's another thing. Look, I'm all about underground cartoons. I love animation. I can't get enough of it. I think it's, I'm a Simpsons freak to this day. There's 29, 30 seasons, seen them all. I love them. Okay? Pepe's a poorly drawn character. I don't know how it associates to anything. Good for that guy that it took off. But then suing everybody, I mean, come on, man. Everybody needs, I guess, a little bit of scratch or dollary dues.
Well, this is why the EU is going after memes. This is why when, what's that guy's name from Redacted Today that does the show on RT?
Redacted Tonight, Lee Camp.
Redacted Tonight, what's his name?
Lee Camp.
Lee Camp. Lee Camp released his analytics from his Facebook showing how certain posts and certain memes he was posting were going viral. And then at a certain time, all of his posts completely flatlined. We looked at our analytics, and at the same time, our posts have completely flatlined as well. And the memes are viral ideas that resonate with people, that are simple, that are easy for people to understand, that show a lot of hypocrisy in our society or in our political system. Sometimes it's hyperbolic to use against another side, but they are very much effective at bringing on a message. But yes, Jason, you need to realize, especially with the DARPA 2012 report, with what the European Union is doing, what the big tech monopolies are doing, they hate the memes. And long live the memes. I will always respect the memes. If you don't respect the memes, you will become a meme. And who knows? Maybe Pepe was even inspired by some of your work.
Oh, thank you. That's you are a gentleman and a scholar, Luke Radowski, and I can only hope to one day be put on the pedestal of Pepe the Frog. Yuck. All right,
It's a big thing. It's pretty serious there.
Oh my God! Do we want to do more?
All right,
of
we got 3 more super chats before we get into the main story. If you see any other comments by our members and sponsors, let me know. But let me just go through these super chats. Jesse Schmidt. Jesse Schmidt's an awesome human being who's been helping us here for quite a while. He says, Jason, you were doing such a good job at not embracing government. What caused your relapse? I still have hopes for an anarchist Christmas.
An anarchist Christmas? Dude, I don't know what you're thinking, man, but like we're talking that's 2 months away. If you think, I mean, I think I became kind of politically aware, maybe like 7 or 8 years old. You know what got me like kind of understanding how politics worked when you had to try out for your little league team. There's a bunch of people there, and you're in a line. You're like, okay, there's a system here. Oh, I get it. This is how things are run. Okay, okay. I know, weird story, but let me tell you something. Every infrastructure has a system like that, a system of hierarchy, whether it's a business, a religion, or what? A government. Guess what they all have in common? People run them. Guess what? They're all corrupt, especially the big ones. And as they get up to the top, they all become corrupt.
There you go.
And I get it.
You're getting there.
No,
You're
no,
getting
I'm
there.
not getting there. I understand how the
Good.
system works. And it's upsetting to me that we've turned to a national security state. And my fear is that as technology progresses on all of those levels, okay, corporate, religious, and government, whatever. I don't know who you think's going to take over. They will all start tightening the grip and being able to control greater and greater amounts of information and people. And that's the real danger, man.
But Jason, if people are corrupt and we can't trust institutions, why do you trust an institution to have any sort of power over you or our lives?
I don't trust it. Again, this is what we don't get, folks. This is why I like the Constitution and Bill of Rights were set up over 200 years ago, and I know it's just a goddamn piece of paper, Luke.
They had slaves, and women couldn't vote.
You know what? I'm not saying these people should be, again, raise the roof. They were
so you
saints.
Want slavery?
Kiss my ball snits.
Is that what you're saying, Jason?
Yeah, of course that's what I'm saying. Come on, Luke. Yeah, obviously you know that's not true. What the genius of these documents were, in my opinion, first of all, were term limits. Keeping money out of government. This is huge. Wait. I'm going to continue. The ability to change the Constitution so that one day, guess what? We didn't have slaves. And women could vote, Luke. Weird how that progressed. Those are good things. They also had a thing called checks and balances. The judicial, the executive, and the legislative branches. Now, if you keep it to those minimalizations and then localized governments, and accountability is real, that's peachy keen. When you start having world wars and you have corporations like Raytheon, okay, like Lockheed Martin, I could continue, and institutions.
They're pretty much government institutions.
Hold on, and whoa. Those are private contracting groups that work hand in hand with government and would exist.
Private contracting groups. They don't even have to go against other contractors. They have no bid contracts. No one is.
I agree. It's totally corrupt.
Rules that they set up.
But guess what, Luke?
Government.
Listen, if the USA fell tomorrow, they'd still be selling them to South America. They'd still be selling them to India. They'd still be selling them across the world, bro. That's my point. So now, instead of allowing our government to work the way that it used to, when technology got too great and we started saying we live in a national security state after World War II, well, that's when it went off the rails, bro. And I realize it is off the rails, but all of our institutions are. And I know that was a long-winded answer.
Let it all fall off the cliff. Let it all go.
What do you think? And listen, I know you're over at Joby's place. And guys, if you don't know Joby Weeks, he's an officer and a gentleman. Great guy. Love the guy. He's not really an officer. I'm just saying that. But he is an entrepreneur, very likable, very generous. I've spent time with Joby. Now, he went on the Ron Paul show, and I watched it. And as soon as he started talking about the non-aggression principle, and we could all live in peace and harmony, it was, you know what? And I don't want to quote him, but you can watch it. Ron Paul's like, well, I think it's a little more complicated than that. And I hope you're there as Ron Paul delivers that baby, and he explains to you, Luke, it's a little more complicated than all that.
First of all, Ron Paul is not Jesus, and I disagree with him on
many
issues.
I didn't call Jesus.
I disagree. I disagree with you on a lot of different things. But let's just move on with the show. I'm going to finish off these super chats, and let's go over all the news that happened Monday through Sunday. Unless you have something else to say.
No, that's good. We can keep.
You want to get the super chats?
Yeah. Which one are we in with?
Dr. Shiva.
We were at Dr. Shiva.
We actually had one by Apache34 who gave a $5 super chat without saying anything. I don't know if you're related to Elizabeth Warren or not, but thank you so much, Apache34. We got Justo Blazo again, who says Dr. Shiva, Massachusetts candidate for Senate, inventor of email. wants to revamp the post office for digital age, written in Constitution, I guess, for protection. Thoughts?
I
What do you
don't
think
know if
about
I
that?
want to digitize it at all. Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm sure it's very digital at this point, but I think that would mean maybe email regulations, and that would be a big problem. Listen, all of our emails, all of our digital communications are already going through sophisticated AI servers, which I do not agree with in the government. This is one of the big problems with government. They are absolutely doing that. So I don't know. I don't know that I would like that, because if we're looking at that he wants to start getting government regulation over our emails, well then we might get deplatformed on Gmail or Yahoo Mail. That could be the beginning steps of something like that, Luke.
Well, that's talking about constitutional protections of information through the digital age. And I think there definitely needs to be more sovereignty in the space. The public spaces are pretty much controlled by big tech monopolies with big interests, like we documented. Saudi Arabia is one of them. The Israeli government, the U.S. government is one of them. We definitely need to move away towards a more free or open internet and more public spaces for better public discourse that is not censored and controlled by these buttholes. So I'm definitely going to take a look at that. I haven't really done my research on it, but it seems like an interesting concept. We got another super chat by Nader Alaquam, who says, do an episode about the cover up of World Trade Center 7. We actually did a lot of videos about World Trade Center 7. If you just type in WTC 7, you can see all of my videos and all of my reports. If you type in Jason Burmis in WT7, you'll probably see a bunch of work there, especially the interviews I did with survivors who were there when World Trade Center 7 came down on 9/11, all the anomalies, all the stories of the first eyewitness accounts that contradict the official story. So yeah, just take a look at our channel and just type in WTC7 to see all the work that we did on that. A lot of extensive work, a lot of groundbreaking work, especially again with the witnesses that were there. Thank you again, Jesse Schmidt. Really appreciate you. And he says, have to go. Have a good week, guys, and believe in Christmas miracles. Well, thank you, Jesse. Appreciate that very much. Got another one by Jose Haligam, who says, love your work, especially your reporting on the city of Michoacan. And Jason, if you don't know what Michoacan is, it's a city that overthrew the government, the police, and organized crime, and lives in an anarchistic society with 30,000 members. Just a heads up there, Jason. Proving something that actually does work and is with no government. Got another super chat by Epson Olsen, who says, fight, fight, fight. Love the dynamics, guys. So yeah, people are enjoying the discourse. Again, me and Jason don't disagree with each other. I'm sorry, we do disagree with each other, but it's about having this exchange and this dialogue in a funny, respectful way where we could, brush things off our shoulder, but also get to the bottom of it. And I appreciate Jason for being patient with my jabs, him jabbing me back. It's always good to have a conversation that could be done without emotional outrage, like we see all over the public discourse. All right, anything else you want to say, Jason, before you get into Monday's story?
Luke, you're an obvious red Chacom traitor to this glorious flag, and you should be deported down where those filthy gang MS-13 rapists gather. You son of a bitch.
That's
Anyway.
a whole other big story that's happening this week with the immigration convoy that should be.
Oh yeah, 5,000.
Yeah, that's a whole other one.
That seems like a distraction, but let's get into stuff that you didn't hear about, because you're seeing that all over the news, right, Luke? You know what you're not hearing about? You're not talking about the big wiener. That's right.
Oh,
Anthony.
That's a great introduction there, Jason. To clarify, this is Monday's story. So this happened on Monday that we're talking about right in there. Go on, Jason, with the big wiener.
Yeah, actually, this did not happen on Monday. It came to my attention Monday, and that's how under the radar this story was, Luke. I couldn't believe it. Not talked about in the alternative media much, not talked about in the mainstream, but there's a different set of rules, can you believe it, for rich people and politicians than you or me. And there's also a special set of rules if you happen to be a sex offender that likes children, that likes sexting 15-year-old girls, that likes having obscene things on their laptop covered up by the FBI. When you're that guy, well, you already get a massively reduced sentence. And even though you're supposed to be out in August of 2019, Luke, it looks more like May. And mark my words, although this thing says May, you'll probably see him walk out, I don't know, March 1st. Remember good old Dennis Hassert? Denny. He's in those Podesta emails. He's a good friend to them. He said, you know what, it's time for Denny to go to a nice little island somewhere offshore. Why would he want to do that? Oh, that's right. That huge scandal where he'd been molesting children since he was a high school gym teacher and wrestling coach, Luke. And he made his way all the way up to the third heartbeat from the presidency, right? Not only that, but he was the longest serving one. He was the longest serving Speaker of the House. Did he serve a lot of time? No. Did he get out early? You bet your ass he did. So
yeah, Argyle, one of our members, actually left a comment here saying, funny how this guy was sexting a 15-year-old when he was married to a, quote, hot chick. Now, the story of Anthony Weiner is extremely disturbing, not only with his name just being Weiner itself, but what he did is an absolute crime that he does deserve to be in jail for. And this special privilege, this early access, just shows you what kind of broken system we have. I have another story that I see here where a musician was sent to jail for 8 years, and that's the sentence he's facing because of medical marijuana he had. So it just shows you how skewed the justice is in this country and how powerful people are just able to skirt around it and do whatever the hell they want, including the ridiculous, disturbing activities that Anthony Weiner was involved in, and now is just getting a small freaking pat because of it. Absolutely ridiculous, Jason.
yeah, no, he's going to get out. He's going to get out. He'll probably have a political career, and if he doesn't have a political career, he'll work as a lobbyist, or he'll get a nice little cushy job at some kind of a firm, you know, something that's like along the lines of a Kissinger Institute or a Cambridge Analytica or a Fusion GPS. All the while, still, I believe he's still married to Huma. I mean, they have a child together. He's been in that Clinton clique for a decade. You know who else is in that Clinton clique? Let me tell you something. Andrew Cuomo, he's in that Clinton clique. Weinstein? Oh, he's in that Clinton clique. You can go all the way back to when they dedicated a nice little library to him and George W. Bush. You know, they got that library together. They're such mortal enemies, but we started to get along. I like Billy. He's a good guy. Well, all those people were at, I mean, Weinstein's right behind Clinton. He might as well have been breathing on his neck. He was so close. Cuomo's there, Abedin's there, Weiner's there. It's just such a marriage of political theater. And what's it really about? It's about criminal corruption. It's about starting things like the Clinton Foundation that makes them almost $500 million in less than 20 years when they have no money, Luke. That's what it's really about, dude. And, you know, a story we didn't cover, and another one that represents the power that some of these, I'm just going to call them what they are, child molesters, sexual abusers of underage kids, teenagers, and sometimes, yes, younger folks. Bryan Singer, he's about to direct Red Sonja, the movie he just directed, the Bohemian Rhapsody film. Yes, he directed that. That's a farce that they ever fired him. That's made up land. He helped edit it. It's coming out. They don't want the bad press. Well, guess what? Esquire's going to do a big article about him. Silence in the mainstream media about it. Silence. Where are they? Where's them too? The Me Too movement is a farce, Luke, and if it had any relevance whatsoever, it would be going after the Wieners of the world and Singer.
Yeah, and also all the other powerful predators out there that are just allowed to get away with all these horrible crimes. So you're definitely on point. Totally agree with you. Great breakdown of everything that's happening here. Before we move on to the next story for Tuesday, we got another super chat by Avitas who says, "Happy Sunday, folks. I hope YouTube doesn't deem this super chat offensive and gives the money to Planned Parenthood instead of you." That's another story that people need to be aware of, because YouTube officially announced that if a super chat is offensive, they will take that super chat and donate it to a charity. So that's a whole other level. I got to check to see the reporting, because obviously YouTube does everything on the back end and barely gives access to the users to see what's going on. But maybe I'll be able to see if that even transpired. I doubt YouTube would report that, but that's another important aspect, because sometimes we get some crazy racist super chats. We choose not to answer them most of the time. And it'll be interesting to see maybe if there's some back-end reporting. But that's another story that's also pretty important, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. It's censorship. Now, I see what they're trying to do here. They're trying to not glorify hate speech in many ways, and that's been some kind of an issue with a lot of people. Hey, how you doing, Joby?
Jobadiah Weeks.
Hey guys.
No, you got
so-
caught with your hand. You got caught with your hand in the cookie jar.
I mean, it's his cookie jar. So anyway, if you didn't know, that is Joby Weeks. Go check out him and Ron Paul. But getting back to what we were just talking about, Luke, if we can, the bottom line is this is more and more regulation on speech, and I'm not for it. At a point who gets to deem, like, let's say someone gives us an offensive super chat, right, Luke? Now, if I read that super chat and I eviscerate it, I say this is absolutely ludicrous. I do not believe this. This person has no argument, and this is why. Should that money? I mean, he got his attention, right? Should that go to whatever they deem fit? I disagree with that. It's a real problem, and really, super chats are one of the few ways that we're able to stay somewhat monetized. And, hopefully this thing will grow. You see how the Jimmy Dore show is able to really get with those super chats. Mark Dice did very well on the day Kavanaugh got in. So it can help independent media in a huge way. But, for instance, Luke, we're listed under news and politics, okay? When I started working here with you, I would go onto the YouTube, and without even being, signed into Jason Burmis or whatever, I would go down to news and politics, and we would be trending in the front. I would see our videos, and I'd be like, "Look at that! That's great!" And this is when we were getting, low end, maybe 20,000, very low end, and then high end, 100 plus, 300,000, 400,000 hits, right? Average. And then all of a sudden, that all ended, and now we got to struggle to get above that 10K mark, stay monetized a lot during that, just so it can maybe hit the potential of 60 or 70,000 viewers with a breakout 100,000 video every 3 months, maybe 4 months. And guess what, folks? We're not listed in that little news and politics thing anymore. We don't come up in the feed ever. Doesn't matter that our videos always launch better than CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. It's a real issue, and people need to be aware of it.
You type in any trending news story or breaking news story, the algorithm has it fixed. If it's newsy, that automatically YouTubers don't come up. MSNBC, CNN, Fox News come up because they're trying to control this narrative. They're trying to control the free flow of information. And really, if it wasn't for super chats, we would be having a way harder time existing. And it's pretty much partly because of the super chats why we're still able to be here. It's been a very long, tough financial road that these guys are building traps in for us, and that's why we're trying to change up how we're doing things, and that's why we're going to be doing a email list. That's why we're moving away from all these larger kind of platforms and trying to diversify as much as we can so we can still exist, because these stories need to be told. And if you're talking about these stories, they see you as an enemy, and they want you out. They want you to shut up. And of course, we won't shut up, because this is a very, very important aspect of news and information that people deserve to know that, of course, is being hidden from them. And I think the next story that you're about to bring up for Tuesday is an incredible example of that, because it's a mind-blowing story of U.S. mercenaries pretty much working for dictators.
Yeah. See, here's the thing, Luke. Now, this is a story that I'm going to give credit to BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed, you usually put out trash. This is an unbelievable, in-depth article about how this whole thing works. And right there is a video. We're going to be able to play it. I don't think there's any audio on it anyway.
But you know we're in trouble when BuzzFeed breaks a very important news story and they're actually doing better reporting than all the other major news outlets. That's when that should be a very troubling sign for everyone.
So
it's a good report. It's a great report. I actually read it. It's a great investigative report.
Yeah. So what you're watching here are U.S. mercs. Okay, U.S. mercs with UAE tanks going to kill political enemies of who? Oh, Saudi Arabia. No big deal. No big deal. They're against Assad or whatever. And this is the first instance we're seeing. What you're watching is the PMGs getting out, firing on people down the street. This is at night, and then placing a bomb which will shortly explode as they drive away. Now, why is this interesting? Well, number one, they're going after politicians that are, they're against in the Yemen war. So instead of boots on the ground in the Yemen war, well, our bombs are already there, Luke. We're already picking the targets, like Rand Paul said. All that we're missing are U.S. troops, boots on the ground. Well, why would you need that? We have so many Blackwater type groups. Blackwater was just the first one you heard about, folks. Now we have all these PMG. Boom! You just hire somebody who's a vet from Afghanistan or Iraq or Somalia or many of the other nations you don't know we're at war in. And they get out. They're not taken care of well. Well, they'll just go to work for hire. And they have all the infrastructure the U.S. military has and none of the rules. So remember, Obama made a real mistake by putting boots on the ground secretly in Syria and having it come out with Timber Sycamore. Remember, Eric Prince came to the president in the first few months of the presidency, sat down with him, and pitched him the idea to get all of our troops out of Afghanistan and replace them with what? PMG units, private military groups. And is that what we want? Listen, I don't like a lot of the things our military does. And maybe that makes me a statist, maybe it doesn't. But I think that they're somewhat more accountable than a private military group that has zero accountability. This is a huge problem. Mercenaries for hire are never a good idea. That's my take on it, Luke. I think that this is a huge story, and it's being buried, and it has so much to do with Saudi Arabia that it's crazy to me that although we should obviously be focusing on free speech and not executing journalists, but when we know that man is more than a journalist and we know we're using mercenaries for hire now in 2018 in the Middle East in wars our country doesn't know about, it's a big problem.
Well, the Khashoggi story is important because it broke a lot of diplomatic protocol, a lot of diplomatic code that they had with them using the territory of Turkey with their own consulate there, with their own land there to murder people. That's why a lot of other people had made it such a big issue. But this is U.S. mercenaries killing diplomats and politicians in Yemen for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for the UAE. A big story. Thank you so much for finding this, Jason, because I wouldn't have found this. And this story should be a lot bigger than what's happening with Khashoggi, without a doubt. And it's something that we're talking about. But again, it's only been BuzzFeed News. I haven't even seen this in the alternative media even talked about. But it's a bigger story than Khashoggi, without a doubt.
Well, because we can't talk about it in the alternative media, because it shines a bad light on the Trump administration. It's business as usual. It's pro-military industrial complex. And when you're tomorrow's news today and you're fighting the globalists, you don't want to talk about how we're openly funding, knowing, and killing children on buses in Yemen. You don't talk about that. You don't want to talk about that. Well, I'm going to talk about it because it makes me sick to my stomach, makes me want to puke in my mouth, friend. I guess we should move on to the next one, should we?
Yeah. What is this, Wednesday?
I believe so, sir. Yes, this is the Wednesday, and this is just really a quick one, but Dennis Hoff, the infamous pimp, and we talked about it on the show. He was running for office. He was running for city council in Nevada, found dead after Ron Jeremy's 72nd birthday party. Ron Jeremy actually is the one that found him. I guess he went off with one of his prostitutes and didn't wake up. They left him and they found him. Obviously, I'm not saying there's some conspiracy here. The guy wasn't that healthy. I believe he was, well into his 70s.
Definitely not healthy. Joby actually, Joby just left, but Joby knew him and he was like, he wasn't the healthiest person.
No, he was not the healthiest person, but he was a warhorse. And again, I'm not even saying I like the guy as a politician. I think when you have to start turning to actual pimps, women, and people that sell women for sex for money to profit.
They're probably a lot more honest than politicians.
I knew you were going to say it, Luke. That's a nice little tagline. Okay? It's great to say. But pimps, listen, although we've glorified them in the rap videos and with the Snoop Doggy Dogg, and I come from that generation, the bottom line is they sell other human beings sexually. It's not something I admire. It's not
Yeah,
something.
like politicians. Politicians are mostly pimps.
Yeah. So, when I eventually run for city council or town mayor or something else, obviously that equates me to a man that has recruited other women to sell their bodies for money so I can make money.
You'll be a pimp of the person, of the average person stealing money with theft, taxation, and then splurging it. So yeah, taking off the top and using people for you and your friend's own enjoyment. That's pretty much the definition of a pimp.
Well, I'm so glad that you know my political future if I ever have one. Thank you so
Selling the
much.
people's hard work and efforts, taking away from them so you can benefit yourself. That's a pimp. Politicians are pimps.
Oh, Luke, we're going to just move on to the next story. This one's another huge story. This one's out of Reuters. And again, it did not get the attention it deserves. Putin says Islamic State has seized 700 hostages in Syria. Okay, that's ISIS. And they're executing 10 a day. And there are videos and photographs of them executing people. Now, the ISIS people are saying that they're Syrian spies. We all know that ISIS is Saudi and U.S. backed in the first place, and that they were literally on their last legs in Syria 6 months ago. So what's really going on here? And at the same time, we're going to get into some stories about this week, but our relationship with Russia is crumbling, and no one seems to care, Luke. First the Syria conflict.
And that's a major big geopolitical component that a lot of other people don't want to talk about as well. And a lot of these Islamic fighters, they're usually on the same side territorially where the United States is and has their troops, and they're using the United States as kind of a safe haven. And that's why when Iran launched their ballistic missiles from Iran into Syria, that's why a lot of the Islamic State targets that they hit were 2 miles within U.S. soldiers. And a lot of geopolitical experts are saying that these ISIS and these radical Islamic terrorists are using the United States as a safe haven in that territory so they don't get completely eviscerated and destroyed. So that's another important aspect to understand about this.
Absolutely, Luke. And again, with
A huge
Russia,
atrocity. 700 people held hostage in Syria. I mean,
they're saying
just
some
all
of those
the
are
media.
American and European nationals too, brother. It's not like this is... So they didn't just take over a village. They've got some prominent political people there as well. And this is not being played up in the media. But you know what is being played up in the media? People like Pat Robertson saying that we can't do it, Luke. We just cannot end our relationship with Saudi Arabia. We need to cool that rhetoric. Why? We have billions of dollars of arms deals with them. And I'll give him credit. He said that was kind of a side deal. And I mean, it came off like he tried to, backtrack a little bit. But he kept talking about how Iran's the terror nation, bro. Iran is behind all the evil in the Middle East. And we need to be Saudi Arabia's friend, even if they killed journalists, because they don't like Iran. That is absurd.
This is pretty much the ultimate betrayal of faith and morality, as you're seeing it personified by someone who is more considerate of money than doing the right thing. I mean, it just totally equates everything to what our establishment about. They will sell out anyone, anything, just to make a buck. And we have a chat by one of our subscribers, Neil Gentry, who says factions in the U.S. government support ISIS. The U.S. government is far from united. And I do believe that the factions have been divided, but also at the same time, the U.S. establishment and the military-industrial complex and Pat Robinson, they're all in line with aiding and abetting Saudi Arabia, which is the biggest sponsor of terrorism. There's no denying it. Absolutely no denying of it, especially with everything that's coming out.
At least that brand, by the way. At least that brand. They absolutely fund the brand of Wahhabism, extremism, jihad terror financially more than anybody. More than anybody. And they can outwardly do so not only because of their financial prominence on the world scale, but because they are a religious nation. They are not secular. So this is almost expected and accepted. And it's a big effing problem, bro. And when
Yeah,
you've
it
got,
is.
when you've got Granddaddy Jesus Christmas guy over here telling a bunch of people that mean well, hey, Christians are good people, man. Grew up around them all my life. Some of the best people out there. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of hypocritical things, blah blah blah. But for the most part, they want to do good. They were the kind of people that were giving up that 11 cents a day, less than a cup of coffee a week to help, those kids in Africa. And they listen to a guy like this,
Yeah,
and
most
they
of that money
believe him.
was laundered and probably never went to the people who were supposed to get them, just like all the other charity scams out there, including one of the biggest ones run by Bono. Oh, God. That's a whole other issue. I got another comment by Argyle, who's one of our subscribers here on YouTube, and he says CBD pen. Before we move on to the next story about a big problems that people don't want to discuss, but he's asking if I'm vaping on a CBD pen. Yes, I am vaping on a CBD pen. I never thought I would be a vapor, but CBD is something that I've been using recently, and I think it's a great supplement that I personally enjoy. And you could also vape it. People are saying puff, puff, pass. Can't really pass it anywhere. But yeah, Argyle, you called it. You're right. CBD. Okay, the next story is also a big, fascinating, incredible undertaking of a story.
Yeah, again, and listen, this is where I'm going to take Trump's side for once today. I haven't.
This is Friday's story, so everyone knows.
Yeah, and you know what? I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, yeah, he wants to ride that MAGA train, but then you have something like this. We did an hour and 15 minutes, and I couldn't have been a bigger critic of Trump, right? But then he says something like this, and you're like, wow, I really like this guy. And he's talking about the Federal Reserve raising interest rates, sabotaging his economy, yada, yada, yada. But he says the central bank is my biggest threat. And he's damn right about that. Because, if they want to crash this economy, if they don't want to do an Obama-style bailout for a fiat currency that has been long inflated, Luke, and that really has no tangible value whatsoever, is down to zeros and ones, in a computer drawing on special drawing rights units that are just that. Well, yeah, they are his biggest threat, because if they want to pull the rug from under this economy at any moment, they can, because it's a fake economy. It's a fiat economy. It's not based on anything. What are your thoughts on this? Because again,
Yeah, I mean, the quasi-private Federal Reserve Bank is pretty much holding us hostage, and Donald Trump is talking about the raising interest rates are moving too fast with the central banks, and that being a big threat. I mean, yeah, obviously we don't want bigger interests because the bigger interests go to the bigger central bank criminals. So I agree with Donald Trump. It's important, again, not to be an NPC. Donald Trump does something bad, you call him out. He does something good and makes us aware of an issue. I think it's important to highlight it and talk about it. So that's why we're talking about it, and I agree with almost everything you said there on that specific topic.
well, thank you so much, Luke. After all the animosity earlier,
Once in a blue moon.
my
Once
my,
in a
my
blue
big
moon.
cuddle bear. Thank
A
you so
broken
much.
clock is right twice a day.
Oh, thank you so much. A broken clock. All right, which gets us to this story right here. This is a huge story. Huge. Big, huge. It kind of culminates almost everything we just talked about right here, other than the big wiener. Trump says he's going to withdraw from the nuclear arms treaty with Russia. Now, talk about a bad move. John Bolton started talking about this 3-4 days ago, and then Trump jumped right on it. We're going to do it. Why are we escalating? Why are we escalating even rhetoric, any kind of confrontation whatsoever with the second largest nuclear power in the world, and probably the most challenging military otherwise, even if you take away their weapons, and strategically placed, by the way? Why are we withdrawing from nuclear arms treaties with them? You can't tell me that this is like a Kim Jong-un madman moment where he's like, no, they're still building them. Well, no kidding. Even if the Russians are breaking this treaty, We are building weapons in space, and we have been since the 80s. I'm sure Russia knows something about it. We just named it Space Force, okay? So just so everybody knows, that wasn't something that was new. Look up Reagan. If you think that that program failed, again, there are bridges for sale, and I've got the deeds to them, bargain prices. So I cannot, for the life of me, Luke, understand why Trump would withdraw from this treaty.
Well, officially, they're saying that Russia broke from the treaty by developing more sophisticated weapons. And of course, the United States built sophisticated weapons too. But if you look at the total count of who has the most amount of nukes in this planet, it is Russia. To me, this is unnecessary. To me, this is going to, again, make the situation a little bit worse. Even though the treaty was irrelevant in some ways, it was relevant in other ways. And to me, this is only going to be a move that's going to benefit the military-industrial complex in the building and advancing of more weapons that could wipe off the planet and kill the entire existence of humanity for the sake of just political power, which is a power that I don't believe anyone should have. And this just shows you how disingenuous the government is to any accountability to anyone trying to hold their expansive authoritarianism that they're trying to spread all over the world. I think hearing some voices. I think maybe Stephanie is possibly giving birth, so I should probably go soon.
Well, you know what? That was our last story. And if there are baby noises, God bless them. I hope it's a. Did they have the gender reveal, or are they waiting, or do they know?
Waiting,
Oh, they're
waiting to
waiting?
find out as it.
Oh, that dude. Well, obviously, either way, it'll be great. Rooting for a boy. Go Joby. Do they have names picked out?
Nope.
Oh, wow. No name.
Joby's thinking about Spadazzle, which is seeing, doing, experiencing, and some Greek term or I don't know or something. But no, nothing is decided yet.
All right.
Going
Well,
with the flow
then,
here.
I want to let our audience know we got a backup channel. It's Pulse Change. Please go subscribe. We're doing an email list. You can sign up over at wearechange.org. That makes sure that you get our videos, because even if you're subscribed and you're hitting those notifications, and you need to do that too, this gives you direct links to all the videos within the week. We do it twice a week. We also are working on a paid subscription newsletter. The free one is on the way. Also, we are starting to send that out, and it is going to have a chock full of good times via Luke Radowski. Lots of informative, exclusive stuff. It's on its way. We got some new T-shirts hopefully coming up. We just need the okay from this guy over here, and we'll see. I think there's a couple good ones on the way. Anything else we should be promoting, Luke?
No, definitely get on the email list. It's going to be a lot of the information that we can't share on the social medias, on the big tech monopolies platforms, because they'll just completely ban and censor us as soon as we start releasing this kind of information. So that's why we're kind of going underground, and to be a part of that underground information flow, sign up on our email list on wearechange.org. I sincerely just want to thank everyone. Thank you, Jason, for joining me and dealing with me. Definitely going to be, let's definitely finish off those T-shirts. And yeah, man, we're going to be back here every single Sunday. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing and sharing. I mean, again, all the super chats. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be here. That's why I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.